I just got back from an 8-day cruise in the Caribbean, and I met a couple who has been on the cruise for 3 months and would be on for another month. And I got to thinking, how would I handle my investment portfolio if I'd gone on an 8-month cruise? Because the internet wasn't all that good on the internet or on the ship, and you don't really want to spend your time doing that. There's other things, like the waveboarding that I did. So I thought, how would I do that? I basically got 5 categories that I invest in. I would go and find the best ETFs in those categories, and that's how I would invest. So that's what I'm going to do here, is I'm going to share with you what my findings are in just a couple of hours that I put to it of the ETFs that would give me the best representation in 2023 for what I think is going to happen. So stay with me on this.
Best of Us Investors presents Carrie Griegmeyer.
Okay, the first thing I'd want to make sure I was invested in is big tech, because I believe 2023 is going to be the start of the drive of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and quantum computing. And I think big tech is going to hold on to that, basically because they have the money, they have the talent, they have the experience. They've already shown with OpenAI that Microsoft is taking a lead in it, and then Google is coming back at it. I believe that Amazon, with its web services, will be a player there, as well as a leader in e-commerce. So I want to be involved with those. I believe Apple is going to maintain its brand of a leader in technology. So I want to be in that. So I went to iShares, and I found this iShares ETF, IYW, and I think it gives you a good representation. I really liked the holdings. Here's a look at their holdings in that. And I think it would give me hands-off representation in the category that I'd want to be in. Of my portfolio, my investable assets, I'll hold some cash out. Of my investable assets, I'd put 30% in. Would I dollar cost average that if I were starting today? Probably over the next maybe 60 days. The next area that I am very, very high on is that of defense. I think the United States, and as far as that goes, the world had basically made the decision that any wars, any conflicts that happened in the future were going to be cyber conflicts. And that isn't what's happening. We know that Russia has invaded Ukraine, and if they conquer Ukraine, they'll move on probably to Poland or some other country, and it will be a ground offensive, and we will just basically be challenged. Do you want to take us on or don't you? Or are you just going to let us go? And that's the same decision we had to make towards Adolf Hitler in World War II. So I think I know where it will go, and that's going to mean that the United States, that European countries are going to have to build up their military defense. And that involves Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman and Raytheon and some other defense companies. So again, I went in this case to iShares, Aerospace and Defense, ticker symbol ITA. And I said, that's I believe, someplace our country and every other country in the world is going to have to spend money and build that military defense, and they're about 35 years behind where they need to be. So it's going to be some major expenditures that cannot be avoided, and I want to share in it. I want to share in the profits of those companies. So as I say, and then you throw in China and their aggressive actions potentially towards Taiwan, and we got to do even more. So I'm going to put 17.5% of my investable assets. Again, if I were going hands-off in ETFs, it would be into iShares ITA. Then the next area that I think I want to be in, and I'm in my investment portfolio I hold, is that of energy. I don't think energy is going to go away. I think that we were lured into the thought that oil and gas were going to be a thing of the past, and electric vehicles, were going to replace the gas stations that we so frequently visit. And I don't think that's going to happen. There's a lot of reasons. One of them is we don't have the minerals we need to convert everybody to an electric vehicle overnight. And then the oil companies are in what I love that I heard them, the CEO of Exxon, say, we're not in the oil business. We're in the business of manipulating carbon molecules. They make all the baggies and the Tupperware and plastic bottles that you use because they are manipulating carbon molecules. And so I would, again, choosing an ETF, I'd go to iShares and I'd use IXC. And again, this is, if I said for any one reason, it's for national security. We have to maintain our energy and our control of energy to combat whatever is going to happen as a result of Russia's aggression or China's aggression. China doesn't have oil. They need oil. So that is a bargaining chip that we would have. So we need to maintain our control there. On the other hand, Russia has oil, so that becomes a bargaining chip of telling Russia either settle down and go to a more peaceful position, or we're going to cut off your oil supply and natural gas supply to Europe, and we're going to supply it. So that tells me that the U.S. has to maintain their dominance in oil and natural gas. So again, 17.5%. And here's the holdings within the IXC ETF. The next one, I'm going to jump away from iShares because I didn't see anything that filled my need there. And that is, if you've seen my channel, you know I'm very high on genome sequencing, genome editing, and genome therapy. I believe as a result of the coronavirus, this is going to be the biggest growth area in the next 10 years in our country, that we are recognizing that although Vladimir and Xi Jinping can be aggressive militarily, the real fear of the world is that of the next virus, the next pandemic. And I saw a Twitter tweet where even the pharmaceutical companies are playing with the idea, okay, if we take an active part in this these viruses, what would be the next genomic mutation, and then how can we get ahead of it and create the next inline vaccination? It seemed a little squirrely to me and a little unethical, but nonetheless, they have recognized these mutations are going to be a major part of our future world, and we have to address them. Well, the only way that that's going to be potentially taken away is to take those susceptibilities away from us, and that's probably going to have something to do with genome sequencing. So I hold a number of genome sequencing companies, as well as genome therapy and genome editing companies, and as I looked at the ETFs offered, there's only one that is focused in that area, and that's Kathy Wood's ARC Genomic Revolution, ticker symbol ARKG. Now, Kathy's been there. Jim Cramer and some other people just this morning are laughing at Kathy that she feels that there is a future here. I think that just shows their ignorance and that they don't really know. They aren't in touch with what is in the future and the ramifications of the coronavirus and how the world has to react to it. And that's going to be through genome therapy and genome editing. Shame on you, Jim Cramer. You need to do some reading and get yourself up to speed. But I understand that going forward. Then the fifth area is one of I don't hold a lot of cash. I think that's dependent upon your needs and your situation. I wanted some safe, independent or dividend stocks. So I have created my own portfolio of dividend stocks. So again, I went to iShares and I found their high dividend fund, and there again, I'm going to put 17.5% in there, and that here's their holdings. And the ticker on that is HDV. So that gives me, if I, again, were going on an 8-month cruise and I didn't want to be actively involved in the stock market on a daily or even a weekly basis, if I wanted ETFs, and I recognize I'm going to probably pay 0.75% management fee, but again, that's a good trade-off, particularly if they've got a good record, and I stay with them. So that would give me, I guess you would call it, a passive investment opportunity in the 5 areas that I feel are the future for my investing. And again, that's big tech, defense, energy, genomics, and a dividend stock portfolio. So that's where I'd go under those circumstances. I'm not going to go on an 8-month cruise, although, as I said, I met a couple who were from Cleveland. He was a retired ear, nose, and throat, and he and his wife got on the Royal Caribbean Harmony of the Seas on December 24th, and they were scheduled to get off on March the 4th, but they were explaining to me that they were being kicked off the boat for a week. I said, what? Yeah, she said, we had it all booked, we had it all planned, and then we got a notification about 2 weeks before we were scheduled to leave that we had to leave this coming week because the boat had been chartered. Now understand, the Harmony of the Seas is a boat with I believe it's 4,500 passengers and 2,500 crew. And someone had said, hey, we want the whole boat for this week. And it's a gay group. I never knew that. I'd seen that on smaller boats, but this big of a boat. And so they got bumped. And the ship was docking in Orlando, so they got a hotel room at the Hilton for 1 week, and then they were going to get back on the boat and finish their cruise. And so there's all kinds of things. I've heard of people retiring on ships in the basement of the ship, but these people were in the Diamond Club. So they were on the wealthy side of the passenger list, and I thought that was interesting. So even in that, if I had chosen to do something like that, I think I would have gone to these five ETFs. So I hope that gives you some insight. If you don't want to dedicate a big portion of your life, and yet you like my strategy of big tech, defense, energy, genomics, and dividends, well, there you go. It's just that easy. And I think but it's also important to recognize, why am I choosing these areas? Because I invest in change. I had a very astute individual very early in my career say, Kerry, the way you make money is not to invest with the herd, but to instead recognize undervalued assets. And undervalued assets are the assets that are going to be affected by the change that is happening in our world. And again, in my 78 years, the biggest change in our world has been facilitated by the coronavirus. The biggest alert to us to say, hey, your most susceptible area in your life today is your health. And it's as a result of globalization, you are now susceptible to whatever they get, wherever they live, and then bring it to you. And you have to adjust your world to accept that. That's genome sequencing. That's genome editing. That's genome therapy. That's getting into that virus as soon as it shows up, before it shows up, anticipating it, and creating a way to fight it. Then the next element is that of globalization, and we learned how that hurts us. If we have to depend on them, we depend on them, and they dictate the. So with that, well, I'm in energy, I'm in defense, and then just to keep a little money flowing, I'm in dividends. Okay, that was my take this morning, and I hope you find it beneficial. If you'd like more of this, you know how to subscribe. You know how to ring that bell so you get notified 7 o'clock every morning that Kerry's got another video he wants to show you. So do that. And let's talk again tomorrow more about this.